Good evening. Hundreds of soldiers have been given a hero's welcome as they marched through Cardiff city centre to mark their return home from Iraq. Around 450 soldiers from the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Welsh took part in the parade. Their families and members of the public lined the streets, and those who didn't return home were remembered at a service in the Millennium Stadium. Nick Pallett reports.
On parade in the winter sunshine, these soldiers are fresh from the heat of a desert battle. From Cardiff Castle, they marched to the tune of Men of Harlech through the streets of the capital. Thousands lined the route to wish them well.
Well done, boys!
Well done, boys, girls! Well done!
For the 2nd Battalion, the Royal Welsh, this was welcome home and a job well done, and a chance for the people to say thank you to the soldiers' families, their heroes.
What's it been like for you as a family while he's been out there?
Worrying. Just worrying, very worrying.
We know how hard it is over there, and yet a lot of people are ignoring the fact that they are over there. And I don't think they're getting the support back home that they should be getting.
To show our appreciation, to come to something like this and to give our lads support in a war like this that they're willing to lay down their lives for is very important, so we have to come.
450 soldiers paraded through Cardiff. Some have already served 3 tours of duty in Iraq and know it far better than they would like.
I think I know more about Iraq, the roads and that in Iraq, more than I would do back in Wales. That's how bad it is. Don't need a map out there now.
The Royal Welsh Parade culminated in a ceremony at the Millennium Stadium, where the soldiers again were greeted to rapturous applause from their families. But on a sombre note, they also remembered the 3 members of the 2nd Battalion killed during their latest deployment in Iraq. A minute's silence was held in honour of Private Craig Barber, Lance Corporal Ryan Francis and Corporal Paul Josco. To the musical accompaniment of the Morriston Orpheus Choir, soldiers who just completed their first tour of Iraq were presented with medals. Their commanding officer confident the troops won't be in Basra much longer.
When we arrived, violence was at its peak, and we had a pretty torrid first 3 months. But then a number of things came together, and the Iraqis stepped up and started taking control of security themselves, which they have increasingly done so. And later this month, security will transfer completely to the Iraqi lead, and increasingly the British forces will be able to scale down as their support is no longer required.
With the formalities over, it was time to relax and be reunited with their loved ones.
It was worse over there this 6 months than it was last 6 months, so it's just great to be home to see your son and get out there alive. Obviously it's hard for the rest of the guys and the families here, but it's just great to be home. Corporal Shane Sweeney from Newport has just returned from Iraq in time for his daughter's 6th birthday, a time of happiness and celebration after 6 months at war.
The worst feeling in the world is when the alarm went off and the rockets started coming in. We called it the rocket lottery, which was scary, very scary. You never know where they're going to land.
Around 3,000 friends, families and members of the public gathered here for this ceremony and parade. A truly emotional homecoming for these so-called Welsh warriors. Nick Pallett at BBC Wales Today at the Millennium Stadium.
Well, with me now is Major Mark Wheeler, who was second in command of the Royal Welsh in Iraq, and Corporal Spencer Bynum. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Our pleasure.
It must be wonderful to be home for Christmas and to have had such a wonderful welcome today.
Absolutely fantastic. We could have not asked for more. What an opportunity, just having come back from Iraq, marching through the streets of Cardiff, and what a wonderful reception we had. Absolutely fantastic.
A wonderful day.
Truly amazing. Couldn't expect anything better, even if we had wished for.
Some people do have very mixed views, though, don't they, about the war in Iraq. So what did the support that you had today mean to you?
The support from our friends, family, and indeed all the people in Wales have been absolutely fantastic. Throughout the tour, throughout the media, we've just had 100% support, and justification was exactly today, just what we wanted. So many people on the streets and so many people in the stadium.
Now, Major Wheeler, this brings to an end your second tour of duty in Iraq, doesn't it, I believe? What difference do you believe the Welsh Regiment has made out there?
Well, let me sum it up by saying this is probably the most violent and kinetic operation that has happened in Basra since we went there in 2003. And what we've seen has been, in the first 3 months, a very, very violent atmosphere where the soldiers were conducting really courageous acts every day. And about halfway through the tour, there were a number of opportunities that fell in place for us to reposture out of Basra and hand over to the Iraqi police and the army, and they've really stood up to the mark. So we've played our role in that, and we've been there at just the right time and delivered what I think is just what was required at the right time to hand over what is now a pretty stable Basra city.
Corporal Bynum, I know that you lost a very good friend, didn't you, in Iraq? You faced danger on a daily basis. Can you describe what it was like out there?
Obviously, we knew what we had to do, the job in hand, and we knew what dangers we faced every day. This didn't deter us in what we had to do. However, there were certain times where it was a very, very scary place to be at that time. And obviously, us being professional in what we do, we just continued with the operation in hand. But unfortunately, there were casualties and losses of lives, which will affect the battalion and all who knew our friends and colleagues that passed away. It will affect us for a long time yet. However, we must go on, and we will continue to do our job as professional as we can in future operations.
And you were responsible for many younger soldiers out there, weren't you? Some, I imagine, in their teens. How did they cope with the situation?
Very well. Obviously, there was young lads who had joined the battalion, and this was their first tour. Many of them were 18, 19-year-old lads, and overnight they became grown men and carried out their tasks as best as anyone else could have expected from them.
Well, it is wonderful to see both home, safe and sound. And any plans for Christmas?
Quiet Christmas with the family, guaranteed. Yeah.
And the same, hopefully.
Well, enjoy it. Thank you both very much for joining us.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
We just want you home. That's the message from the family of a 21-year-old father from Swansea who's been missing for over a week. Jonathan Jenkins disappeared during a night out in the city. Police are appealing for anyone with information to come forward, as Nicola Smith reports.
Shona Jones is keeping a brave face for her 7-month-old daughter, Bailey Ray. She hasn't seen her daddy for more than a week.
She's not herself, she's not eating, she's not sleeping at night, she's not settling at all. She's just seeing Dad all the time, and when she's crying is Dad.
Bailey Ray is Shona and Jonathan's first child. They'd only just moved into their family home.
We just all want them back. It's as if something's been ripped out of me. This is what it feels like.
This is the man they all miss so much, Jonathan Jenkins. He's just an ordinary 21-year-old. He works in a call centre and he loves football. He plays for his local team. On the night of Sunday, the 2nd of December, Jonathan was out with his family and